So, as promised, here we have the St John's Church in Boscombe on England's south coast, with construction between 1893 and 1895 by John Aldred Scott and Charles Thomas Miles. So, apparently 2 years. I don't think so, somehow. But they were the master builders in the 1800s, with no mistakes and last forever, while using no power tools either, remember. Then we have the northwest porch or tower from 1919 to 1920, saying it was oddly detailed, which I think is an odd statement in itself, with dissenters, possibly by Scott and Miles, but they're not sure about that. It could have been. It may be, maybe not. Like I said, possibly. But what I know is Scott died in 1913, so it definitely wasn't him. So why they're putting possibly anything to do with him, I have no idea. But what I do know is the cost down to the pound, £4,896, which makes 0 cents. And what else makes 0 cents is that on National Churches Trust site, it claims that it was designed and built in 1903 to 1909 by an Adrian Aldred Scott. So 6 years, and now they have the power tool, but it takes longer. Again, makes no sense. I cannot locate this Adrian Aldred Scott. It was only Adrian Gilbert Scott, who of course is John Aldred Scott's nephew, but he has no history on being involved in this church's construction. And he would. You just would pin your name to it if your name was meant to be pinned to it. It states that the parish of St John was formed in 1890, and of course there was a temporary church put up on this site in 1891 with a steel structure. Must have took days to erect in the 1800s. Then 2 years later they find a master architect, and of course his name would be John. Multiple names, you will see this time and time again. It's a thing. The contractors that are graced with the responsibility of constructing this beautiful building are supposedly Jenkins and Son of Christchurch. I hope you know what the sun represents. The problem with that is that I can't find any company under that name through history that admits to building the St John's Church, or even a Jenkins and Son from Christchurch. Not only was John Aldred Scott building the St John's Church, but he also completed an extension of double transepts, choir vestry and an organ chamber on St George the Martyr's Church, New Wolverton in 1895. Again, repeating names. His dad's name is George. And also he built the St Philip's Church in Hove. It states building work took less than a year. How? In November 1894, Scott was commissioned to design the church, which he designed and built by October 1895. So 11 months he drew this thing up, organised and built, and opened the doors for the first service by the 28th of October 1895. Wow, maybe I should have concentrated on this one instead. That's amazing. Really though, how have they done that? Again, remember, no power tools. And this was all going on at the exact same time as lavish hotels, shopping arcade, and an 1,800-seated theatre merely 200 metres away, 1890 to 1895. All no problem in the late 1800s, of course. They had construction down to a T. Winters weren't a problem either. Horse and cart construction ploughed on through. No dramas, no mistakes, no stopping, just getting the job done. Then we have Charles Thomas Miles, who apart from a little paragraph saying nothing of importance, there's nothing on Wikipedia. I can't find anything to do with him to do with this building or anything else. Just his name. But I did randomly find another person pinned to this church though, a Mr. T. Stevens, saying he built it between 1889 and 1898. Apparently 9 years this time. And again, with power tools, but the construction times are getting longer and longer. And the tower completed in 1905 to 1906. So who done it? How long did it actually take? And what year? Because we have 3 different architects with 3 different start dates, as well as 3 different times taken to build it. I believe none of that is true. It was founded, repurposed, and used for what we want to use it in our timeline. So, Mr. John Aldred Scott is also pinned to being involved in 39 old world churches that are all masterpieces. I will expose some soon. In just 40 years. 39 in 40 years. And as shown here, sometimes with more than one project on the go at the same time in the same year. But to really open up this can of worms, we need to look further. And when we do, we find so much more contradicting history, it is going to blow your mind.